Suzuki GSX-R1000 is returning to the UK and Europe. And this time, it's got new colours, it's got revised bodywork, it's got new engine internals and a brand new exhaust. And here it is. Well, kind of. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks an awful lot like the bike that arrived in the UK back in 2017. And that's because you'd be right. So basically, this is an updated version of the last generation of GSX-R1000. Only this time, it's only going to be available as an R variant. Now, before you start asking, I don't know what the price is going to be yet, and I don't know when it's going to arrive in dealers either. All I can tell you is it's going to be available in a gorgeous yellow, a lovely sort of deep red and white, and a classic Suzuki blue and white design as well. And all three of those are designed to hark back to iconic Suzuki GSX-Rs of the past, and that's because this year marks 40 years of the GSX-R name. Back in 1985, the first ever GSX-R750 came out, and this bike has come out as part of the celebrations of that 40-year milestone. In fact, it's actually being revealed just before the very start of this year's Suzuka 8 Hours endurance race over in Japan. So the most obvious changes are the ones that I kind of alluded to in the introduction. You've got a brand new exhaust muffler, which is nice and long and thin now. If you remember the old one, it was a bit fat. A lot of people likened it to a dustbin. I actually really like the look of the new design, and obviously you can take that straight off and put something else on if you would like to. But as a standard unit, I think it looks quite cool, and it reminds me of sort of GSX-Rs and other sports bikes of the very early noughties with those huge bazooka cans that we used to get. It's also got carbon winglets down the front as well, and those wings have actually been taken from the Suzuki CN Challenge bike that competed at last year's Suzuka 8 Hour endurance race using sustainable materials like more recycled material, greener tyres and a full exhaust system with a catalyser in it. The winglets are obviously going to help with a little bit of downforce, and that's despite this bike making ever so slightly less power than the old version. So as I said, this is an update on the previous version of the GSX-R, but nonetheless it is lovely to have it back, and I'm very excited to have it back as well. Now, things that have been carried over from the old model include the aluminium twin spar chassis, which holds the engine in place, and that engine is a 999.8cc inline 4-cylinder motor as before as well. You've also got the same upside-down fully adjustable suspension as before, and the subframe, which is bolt-on, and the brace swing arm are also the same as before. Tyre-wise, this bike comes on Bridgestone RS11s, which are sort of a track day tyre, but you know, you could change that for others if you prefer, because obviously this runs 17-inch wheels for plenty of tyre choice. On top of that, you've still got a 6-axis IMU for fully lean-sensitive electronics. You've got rider modes, you've got an up and down quick shifter, and more. One of the technical things that you don't have on this, though, is a TFT dash. Now, I quite like it, and hopefully it helps keep the price down, because where other modern superbikes these days, such as a Ducati Panigale V4S, are verging on 30,000 quid, if this bike comes in at around about £16,000, you can look past things like that, because this will be a real relative bargain. But that's all down to Suzuki, and I hope you're listening, because I think that would be a stroke of genius. One of the things that has changed, though, is the internals on that motor, because when the bike left the UK, it was Euro 4 compliant. Now, since then, we've had Euro 5, and we're now into Euro 5 Plus. So Suzuki have had to do a number of changes inside in order to allow it to meet the latest homologation standards to be sold in the UK and Europe. So as I said before, this bike continues to have a 999.8cc inline 4-cylinder engine. Now that's been updated to meet the latest noise and emissions regulations. And as a result, there's a new crankshaft and crankcases. There's also updated camshafts and an increased compression ratio from 13:1 to 13:8:1. On top of that, you've also got a new cylinder head, and the head gasket shape has been changed too. Also, the intake and exhaust ports have been modified to help improve efficiency. You'll also find reshaped piston heads that accommodate increased valve diameter, and the rib shape beneath the piston is also changed. Now this is to shave a claimed 3 grams to help boost durability and reduce vibration when everything's spinning. The exhaust muffler is new too, something I mentioned earlier on, and the throttle bodies are also revised, said to be lighter and more compact, with a 48mm bore, which is up from 46mm. Variable valve timing is also carried over from the old generation bike, and that's built into the intake cam sprocket to help provide a broader spread of power. The shape of this system has been altered for the new model, alongside a wider new cam chain. As a result, the bike produces a claimed 192.3 brake horsepower at 13,200 RPM. Now that's joined by 81.18 pound-feet of torque at 11,000 RPM. Now Suzuki say that this torque is said to be delivered in a more linear fashion than before. However, power has dropped down from 199.2 brake horsepower at 13,200 RPM, and torque has also come down from 86.8 pound-feet at 10,800 RPM. Now that might sound disappointing, but the reality is that is what they needed to overcome in order to get this bike back into Europe. So I'm prepared to overlook a couple of horsepower in order to have the iconic GSX-R1000 name back in UK dealerships. And also, if we're being completely honest, 193 brake horsepower is still going to be really bloody fast. You know, you have to be a real hero to get the most out of the very top end of a superbike. And the reality is, to average Joes like you, like me, that's still going to be plenty fast enough. The chassis is going to be plenty compliant enough. And obviously, if you do want to enter the brake horsepower arms race, a full system and a reflash is going to get you a bit more power back very quickly. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that at the moment, but the important thing is that it's back and we cannot wait to ride it. Exactly where it's going to sit in the order of things, well, that remains to be seen, because we have seen new BMW S1000RRs since the Suzuki left. Obviously, we've still got old school Japanese bikes like the ZX-10R to contend with. But we've also got new kids on the block as well, like Bimotors KB998 Rimini. We also know that Norton are working on a fully homologated V4 superbike, which should appear at the EICMA trade show in November this year too. So you're just going to have to wait and see for all of the comparison tests that we've got planned coming up in the future. For now though, all I can say is thanks very much Suzuki for bringing us back such an iconic model to Europe. I really have missed seeing it on UK roads. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please remember to give us a like and a subscribe. And remember to pick up a copy of MCN and have a look on our website for more in-depth tech features and news about this model.